A little bit bigger to work on this with, besides that little bitty thing. Alright, to put it all back together, you just take and push it back in. Hold your finger over it so you don't shoot this thing off. And there's actually a slot inside there that this will fit down into, but you have to get the plunger back far enough when you do it. Hold it in place and whoop, back in there. Ta-da! And it holds it all back together like magic. Ta-da! Now, polishing the internals on a receiver, everything in here, from here forward in the center, you can kind of see where the bolt rides. There's grooves. Well, not grooves, but where the contact points ride. You'll want to get in here with some fine grit sandpaper, sand on it really good, and then come back with a like a nice car polish, like a high gloss polish. Some people use like a Mother's chrome polish or something like that. But you can, once you take one apart, you'll be able to see where everything rubs and touches. That's basically what you want to polish up to make it really, really slippery. Alright, to put everything back together, it's all a backwards process. Again, yours won't go, this part won't go like this, but it'll be similar. Yours will actually just slide right in. I guess I could have grabbed, I've got a factory charging handle on top of my safe, but I didn't grab it. This is the most awkward part of the whole putting back together. You have to pull this all the way to the rear and hold it without it going anywhere. Your bolt will go in. You want it to actually go in kind of flat. Mine's not wanting to for some reason. But you have to take and line everything up, and when you do, it'll all go right together. The groove that's on top of the bolt is where the charging handle fits, and you have to finagle it enough to where it'll fit in that slot. And I've kind of learned that if you pull it back and once it catches, you can let go and put downward pressure on the bolt, wiggle the bolt handle, and move the bolt back and forth a little bit, and it'll actually seat itself inside there. From here, you'll take your buffer bolt, slide it back in, and mine wants to be stubborn and not do what it's supposed to now. There we go. It goes back in, and that cuts down on the clanking, and people say that over time it'll actually round or egg out the receiver. I've never seen one do it. There's people that have them together all the time, but if you ever get in your receiver and look, you can't even get back behind that. The whole thing rests on the back wall. So I don't see how they say it'll oval it out, because if it does, it's shifting the whole back of the receiver to me. But I could be wrong. That's just my point of view on that one, I guess. From here, I'll spare you with putting all that back in. But those go back in after you get the barrel back on. From here, your trigger group. Now the easiest way to do this, of course, is doing it on the side, because if you do it upside down, that thing will flip out all the time. I always go from the back, push it back, slide it up without anything shifting funny, and then it's back together. Kind of use your fingers to move it around. Take your pins, start one of them, and check your pins too, because sometimes are rounded over on one side, and it'll push in real easy. That's one thing that I have learned from taking these apart so much. And there you have it. That's disassembled and reassembled. And once you get it done, I can take mine apart and redo it off camera in less than like 5 minutes, tearing this apart. Total overall time to take the whole thing apart, trigger group, bolt, barrel, if I completely stripped it down, maybe 10-15 minutes to do the whole thing. It doesn't take me long, and once you get the hang of it, it's not really that scary. It's just getting in there and doing it. It's quite simple. So if there's any other videos, oh, I remember one other thing somebody asked. I'll do that real quick and I'll show you. Somebody had asked about polishing internals, and I just remembered someone asked about polishing inside the trigger group also. Most times you'll polish the hammer, and the only other thing that I've ever heard of people polishing on these is the engagement point where the hammer and the sear meet. That's about the only other point that I've ever heard of people actually polishing. Let's see if I can get down to it real quick. I'm doing all this backwards from my last video, I know, but I'm trying to do it quick. Alright. The only other part that I've ever heard of people polishing is right around this, which is your sear engagement point. Don't have to, really, I guess. I mean, I've heard of people coming in with just like a Scotch-Brite pad and just shining it up a little bit. But other than that, that's the only things that I've ever heard of that are what you would polish for internals. But yeah, they're easy to do once you tear them apart and figure out what's what and what goes where. But they're fun. Expensive, but fun. I've learned this over the years. So if anybody has any other questions or wants to see any other videos, just leave a comment or send me a private message, however y'all want to do it, and I'll see what I can get on there for everybody. But other than that, it all goes back to the same way, back together. So just let me know, guys. Just shoot me another message or whatnot.